Be ready. 10 seconds to go. Start. I rise to inform this August House of the status of discussions with the United States on Civil Nuclear Energy Cooperation. Substantive aspects of this are reflected in the joint statement that US President Bush and I agreed upon during my visit to Washington, D.C. last year. I would like to use this occasion to outline the context and core elements of the joint statement before detailing the status of the ongoing negotiations. Honorable members are aware that our effort to reach an understanding with the United States to enable civil nuclear energy cooperation was based on our need to overcome the growing energy deficit that confronts us. As India strives to raise its annual GDP growth rate from the present 7 to 8% to over 10%, the energy deficit will only worsen. This may not only retard growth, it could also impose an additional burden in terms of the increased cost of importing oil and natural gas in a scenario of sharply rising hydrocarbon prices. While we have substantial reserves of coal, excessive dependence on coal based energy has its own implications for our environment. Nuclear technology provides a plentiful and non polluting source of power to meet our energy needs. However, to increase the share of nuclear power in our energy mix, we need to break out of the confines imposed by inadequate reserves of natural uranium and by international embargoes that have constrained our nuclear program for over 3 decades. Established through the vision of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and sustained by the commitment of scientists like Dr. Homi Bhabha, our nuclear program is truly unique. Its uniqueness lies in the breadth of its overarching vision of India mastering a three-stage nuclear program using our vast thorium resources and mastering more complex processes of the full nuclear fuel cycle. Consequently, our civilian and strategic programs are deeply intertwined across the expanse of the nuclear fuel cycle. There are hardly any other countries in a similar situation. Over the years, the maturation of our nuclear program, including the development of world class thermal power reactors, has made it possible to contemplate some changes. These are worth considering if benefits include gaining unhindered access to nuclear material, equipment, technology, and fuel from international sources. However, international trade in nuclear material, equipment, and technologies is largely determined by the Nuclear Suppliers Group, an informal group of 45 countries, members including the United States. But more importantly, in the joint statement, the United States implicitly acknowledged the existence of our nuclear weapons program. There was also public recognition that as a responsible state with advanced nuclear technologies, India should acquire the same benefits and advantages as other states which have advanced nuclear technology, such as the United States. The joint statement offered the possibility of decades old restrictions being set aside to create space for India's emergence as a full member of a new nuclear world order. On our part, as honorable members may recall from my suo motu statement last year, we committed ourselves to separating the civilian and strategic program. However, this was to be conditional upon and reciprocal to the United States fulfilling its side of the understanding. I had stressed that reciprocity was the key, and we expected that the steps to be taken by India would be conditional upon and contingent on action taken by the United States. I had emphasized then, and I reiterate today, that no part of this process would affect or compromise our strategic program. I now come to the negotiations that have taken place in the past few months. While these have been principally with the US, there have been discussions with other countries like Russia, UK, and France as well. At the political level, I have maintained contact with President of France, President Putin of Russia, Prime Minister of the UK. I have also raised this subject with the heads of state government of Norway, Republic of Korea, Netherlands, etc., all members of the NSG. I also met President Bush in New York last September and discussed implementation statement. In the same period, several American congressional leaders and policy makers have visited India in the past few months, many of whom met me. We have amply clarified our objective in pursuing full civil nuclear energy cooperation for our energy security and to reassure them of India's impeccable non proliferation credentials. At the official level, we have constituted two groups comprising key functionaries concerned with strategic and nuclear matters. They included the Department of Atomic Energy, the Ministry of External Affairs, the Armed Forces, and my office. These two groups were respectively mandated to draw up an acceptable separation plan and to negotiate on this basis. The directive given to both groups was to ensure that our strategic nuclear program is not compromised in any way while striving to enlarge avenues for full civil nuclear energy cooperation with the international community. The negotiations by our officials have been extensive and prolonged. These have focused on four critical elements to focus on the nuclear facilities development in this area. Stop.